The twin suns of Nal 9 scorched the dunes in relentless fury. Heat shimmered like ghosts above the sand, distorting the horizon into mirages of forgotten cities. Bound at the wrists with fiber steel rope and tossed beside a rusting water condenser, Sam Riker blinked sweat from his eyes and tried not to curse out loud. Again. "Desert diplomacy," he muttered. They could have just said no. A few hours ago, Sam had been negotiating the repair of a grounded star hauler belonging to some regional noble. A simple job: patch up the fusion coils, maybe recalibrate the AI flight matrix. But things went south the moment he mentioned payment. Apparently, the prince's guards had a different interpretation of mechanic and neutral. They saw spy, or worse, interloper. Now here he was, tied, dumped, and left to die in the boiling heart of the searing flats. He tugged once at the restraints, tight, high-grade corded alloy. No way out without tools. But Sam wasn't just any spacer wrench jockey. He was human, and in the Galactic Federation, humans had a reputation. They didn't quit, they didn't break easy, and they were weirdly good at surviving. A low rumble echoed from behind a nearby dune. Sam froze. It sounded like thunder, but deeper, organic, not a storm, something alive and big. The sand trembled. He rolled behind the condenser just as a shadow blotted out the sky. A long neck curved into view, armored, scaled, with heat-refracting ridges along its spine. Twin golden eyes blinked down at him, ancient and intelligent. A dragon, but not just any dragon. This was the legendary Sharvan kindred, a species thought extinct after the War of Nine systems. Bioengineered for royalty, they were more than pets. They were living symbionts, partners to the ruling bloodline of Avaris. The dragon snorted once, and Sam expected fire. Instead, it lowered its head to sniff him, exhaled, and then groaned. Behind it, another shape stumbled into view. A second dragon, smaller, limping, wings torn and scaled hide blackened by plasma burns. Sam's mechanic instincts overrode fear. Even without tools, he could see it. Wing tendon damage, leaking nanocyte veins, a fried ocular node. These two were shot down, he murmured, and left to die, just like me. His jaw tightened. You've got to be kidding me. The big one stepped aside, as if offering him a choice. Do something, or let them die. With a grunt, Sam dragged himself upright and used the rusted edge of the condenser to slice through the ropes. Pain screamed through his wrists, but he didn't stop. Moments later, he was free. The injured dragon's flank shuddered with shallow breathing. Sam knelt beside it and opened the only tool he had left, his brain. "Okay, sweetheart," he said softly. "You're gonna hate this. But I'm not letting you go down." Above them, the larger dragon let out a low, rumbling purr. In the distance, sand rovers approached, armored, gun bristling, and painted with the royal insignia. The prince was coming to clean up his mess. Too bad for him the human wasn't done fixing things yet. The air crackled with tension as the sand rovers crested the horizon, 4 of them in total. Each was bristling with mounted plasma cannons and royal banners flapping in the searing wind. Sam Riker wiped soot from his brow, the heat stinging his eyes, and muttered under his breath, "Right on time, Your Highness." Beside him, the injured dragon, whom he'd started calling Scorch, let out a low, rasping growl. Its wounds still leaked golden bioplasma, but the emergency patch Sam had jerry-rigged using salvaged heat dispersal mesh had slowed the bleeding. Not much, but enough. The larger dragon, clearly Scorch's kin, circled protectively around them, its eyes glowing brighter with every second. Sam didn't need a translator to understand the body language. "Stay behind me. You fixed my blood. Now I guard yours." "I didn't sign up for this," he said, checking the weight of the only weapon he'd found, an old welding torch. "But hey, humans never do." The rovers stopped 50 meters out. Dust curled in the air as their engines idled. From the lead vehicle emerged a figure in flowing red and gold robes, a high-collared crown glinting under the twin suns. Prince Eza Ven of Avaris. His voice boomed across the flats, augmented by a vocal enhancer. Human, you touch what is sacred. You trespass where you are not welcome. Sam stood his ground. You tied me to a condenser and left me for the carrion beetles. I figured that revoked my welcome either way. Asia's face darkened. Those creatures are royal property. Dangerous. Diseased. They're dying, Sam growled. They were shot. Someone tried to wipe out your bloodline's dragons and left them here to rot. That made the prince hesitate. Barely, but the guards behind him were already aiming weapons, fingers twitching on triggers. The bigger dragon stepped forward and let out a deafening roar, sending a sonic shockwave through the dunes. One of the rovers toppled, and several guards dropped their weapons in panic. Sam blinked at the dragon. Well, glad we're on the same team now. Suddenly, Scorch reared its head and spoke, telepathically, a deep voice echoing inside Sam's skull like thunder wrapped in silk. He tried to end us, end the bond. You kept the fire alive. Now the oath is yours. Sam gasped. His veins felt like they were burning, but not with pain, with power. A spark had ignited, ancient, binding, the bond of the kindred flame. The dragons had chosen him. Asa stepped back, eyes wide. You bonded with them. Sam didn't reply. He didn't have to. Scorch opened its wings, now partially reinforced with a field Sam had unknowingly activated, a latent defense system triggered by the bond. Flames danced across the membranes like living lightning. Prince Asia's guards were already retreating. They understood what this meant. The dragons had crowned a new protector, and he wasn't royalty. He was human. Run, Sam said quietly, staring at the prince. Because if you ever touch them again, I swear, you'll see what a Deathworlder bonded to dragons can really do. A gust of wind howled across the sands. The prince turned and vanished into his rover. The rest followed like frightened ants. Sam collapsed to his knees, breathing hard, sweat soaking his collar. The dragons circled him, silent, fierce, loyal. In that moment, he understood. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore, he was the keeper of flame, and the war for the skies of Avaris had just begun. Sam Riker didn't sleep that night. Even as the desert cooled and the twin moons painted silver lines across the sand, he sat beside the dragons, Scorch resting its head near his boots, the larger one standing sentinel. Above, the stars shimmered in impossible constellations. Avaris's sky looked peaceful, but Sam now knew what hid beneath that peace: betrayal, murder, and the cold gleam of royal ambition. He fingered the small crystal embedded in the base of his wrist, something the dragons had given him. Not implanted, not forced, gifted. He could feel it hum faintly when they were close. A living resonance. You carry our oath, Scorch's voice had said in his head. You hold our flame. He hadn't told anyone, but since the bond, something else had changed inside him. His senses were sharper. He could hear the way sand moved, how creatures whispered through vibration and scent. He even understood the dragons now, not just words, but emotion, memory. They remembered a time when humans were myths, whispers from a dead corner of the galaxy. Now one was breathing among them, and the old power stirred again. Suddenly, a sharp rumble echoed from the north dunes. Sam scrambled to his feet. The dragons rose too, tense, alert. From the shadows emerged two small hoverbikes. He reached instinctively for the welding torch strapped to his thigh, but paused when the riders dismounted and raised their hands. One was a young alien woman, cloaked and dusty. The other was an older, grizzled reptilian humanoid with glowing yellow eyes. "Easy," Sam called out. "I've had enough attempted executions for 1 week." The woman stepped forward, removing her hood. Her eyes were amber, burning with urgency. "You're the human the dragons saved." Sam hesitated. Yeah. Depends who's asking." She knelt before Scorch. "I am Kael'thra of the Broken Spire. I saw the flames. The old fire is returning. The bond has reawakened." The older reptilian stepped forward, holding out what looked like a holographic scroll. It shimmered with an ancient sigil, dragon wings entwined with a star. "The prophecy speaks of a flame-bearer," he rasped. When the royal blood breaks its oath and the sky forgets the fire, an outsider will rekindle it. Sam blinked. You think I'm in a prophecy? No, Caelthra said. The dragons know you are. Before Sam could reply, Scorch's head lifted. The larger dragon growled, a warning. Then they all saw it. Above them, in the sky, a royal war barge descended through the clouds, massive, sleek, and glowing with red underlight. Caelthra paled. That's the crown's vengeance. Prince Aza sends it when he wants entire clans erased. The ship hovered low, scanning the dunes. Then a booming voice erupted from hidden speakers. You were warned, human. Return the dragons or be buried with them. Sam looked up at the ship, then at Scorch. He felt the bond surge in his chest. Rage, sorrow, resolve. He turned to Caelthra. Do you have weapons? She smiled grimly. Enough to make the crown regret waking the old blood. Sam nodded. Then let's remind them what it means to burn. The desert wasn't quiet anymore. The rebellion had begun. The first blast shook the desert like a god's hammer. A molten red beam from the crown's vengeance sliced through a dune, vaporizing it into glass. The shockwave threw sand into the air in a blinding cloud. Sam dove behind a ridge with Caelthra and the other rebels, heat washing over them like a furnace. Scorch roared, a sound ancient and thunderous, and launched upward, wings punching through the haze like war banners. The larger dragon followed, trailing fire from its mouth like smoke from a volcano. The sky lit up with chaos. The crown's ship unleashed hunter drones, sleek, insectoid, and vicious. They swarmed toward the dragons, but Scorch spun through them with impossible grace, incinerating one with a direct blast of flame. From the ridge, Sam raised a repurposed plasma rifle, alien make, human modifications. He aimed at the lead drone and fired. F-za-tit-tet. Boom. It exploded in mid-air, shards raining down. Caelthra handed him a comm disc. The prince is aboard that ship. If you reach the command deck, we end this faster. Sam looked up, sweat carving paths through sand on his face. You're saying I break into the royal flagship with one gun and a dragon? Caelthra smirked. No, with 2 dragons and a prophecy. Inside the crown's vengeance, Prince Aza stood tall on his command bridge. He watched the desert burn through translucent battle glass, his golden armor gleaming. One clawed hand rested on the hilt of a ceremonial blade, the other clenched in fury. They dare raise dragons against me, he growled. An officer bowed. The human leads them, your radiance, the flame-bearer. Aza sneered. That mechanic should have died under twin suns. Bring me his ashes. Outside, Scorch dove toward the underbelly of the ship, dodging turret fire. Sam clung to a saddle grip, embedded in the dragon's hide. The crystal in his wrist pulsed violently. You must go inside, Scorch said in his mind. We'll clear the path. They blasted through a vent port, narrowly missing a closing bulkhead. Sam jumped off mid-glide and landed in a maintenance tunnel, rolling hard. He was inside the royal warship. His comm crackled. Caelthra's voice. There's a lift at grid 4D. Use it. Sam sprinted, taking down a pair of guards with stun rounds. As he reached the lift, the lights flickered red. Emergency protocols. The ship knew it had an intruder. Ding. Doors opened to the throne bridge, and there stood Prince Aza, tall, armored, furious. You desecrate royal ground, Deathworlder. Sam raised his rifle. You dumped me in the sand to die. You declared war first. Aza drew his sword. It hissed with plasma edges. Then come. Let's write your last words in fire. The prince lunged. Sam rolled aside, ducking a vicious arc, sparks flying as blade kissed steel. They clashed, man versus monarch. Every parry was a heartbeat stolen, every strike was a declaration. Then Sam's wrist crystal flared, and Scorch's flame burst through the ceiling, engulfing the prince in fire. Aza screamed. Sam stood over him, panting, bruised, half-burned. He looked into the dying prince's eyes. This is for the dragons you killed. And he pulled the trigger. The ship began to tilt. Outside, the dragons circled triumphantly. Rebels cheered from dunes below. Caelthra raised a torn banner, the symbol of the old order reborn. Sam limped back to the deck, where Scorch awaited. "I thought I was just a mechanic," he muttered. "You are," Scorch answered in his mind, "but even sparks can burn kings." Spark! The desert was silent again, but not dead. Where once the crown's vengeance ruled the skies, now only its charred wreckage remained, half buried in the dunes. The scent of plasma fire lingered like a bitter memory. Ash swirled with the sand, painting the horizon in shades of mourning and victory. Sam stood at the edge of the impact crater, staring down at the broken helm of Prince Asia. "I didn't mean to be a soldier," he said softly. Caelthra approached, limping, her own armor scorched. "And yet you ended a dynasty." He didn't reply. His hands were still shaking, from adrenaline, from pain, maybe even guilt. The prince had been a tyrant, but Sam hadn't come to this planet to fight someone else's war. He'd come to fix engines, not rewrite galactic history. Above them, Scorch circled once before descending with the larger dragon, Caelthra's bonded one, ancient and regal. The creatures landed with practiced grace, watching their companions with eerie understanding. "Word will spread," Caelthra said. "You'll be more than a symbol. You'll be a spark of rebellion across the stars." Sam turned to her. "That's not what I wanted." "It never is," she replied, "but fate doesn't care." Back in the canyon hideout, survivors gathered. Exiles, rebels, deserters, even low-caste nobles. The rebellion had been fractured before, but Sam's victory had united them. A council was formed, crude but determined. And Sam? He was given a seat. He declined it. Late that night, under twin moons, Sam sat beside Scorch at a cliff's edge. "I don't know what happens now," he admitted. The dragon's voice rumbled in his thoughts. "Freedom is always followed by choice." Sam exhaled slowly. "There are still fleets out there, still systems under crown control." He looked out at the stars, so many of them, too many to save, too many to ignore. "I'm just a mechanic," he said again. Scorch's eyes glowed. "And mechanics fix what others abandon." The following morning, Caelthra approached him with an ancient scroll. "The flame-bound pact," she explained. "Once used to bind dragons and warriors under a shared cause." Sam raised a brow. "You think I should lead them?" "No," she said. "I think you already are." The scroll pulsed with warmth as his fingers touched it. A low hum echoed in the air, energy recognizing a vow not yet spoken. Sam signed it with a tool, not a sword, not as a warrior, as a builder, a restorer. Across the galaxy, words spread like wildfire. The prince is dead. The dragons fly once more. A human lights the flame. On distant worlds, prisoners whispered his name. On hidden moons, old enemies sharpened blades in fear. On stations long controlled by the crown, secret rebellions sparked into being. Because of a mechanic who refused to die quietly in the sand. And deep in the void, beyond even the rebel whispers, a shadow moved. Not of the crown. Something older. Watching. Awakening. It started with a whisper, somewhere in the far colonies. A dark moon blinked out of star charts. A mining crew vanished mid-broadcast. Then a refugee ship limped into rebel space, its hull scarred by something older than plasma and colder than vacuum. But Sam didn't know this yet. He stood before a forge, yes, a real forge, dug into red rock and fed by volcanic heat. Around him, alien engineers, exiled smiths, and even dragons observed in silence as he repaired what the Empire had left to rot. Not weapons. Wings. Sam bolted the last section into the new dragon flight harness, lighter, stronger, resistant to mag-flechette fire. He stepped back, face dirtied by soot, then looked up at Scorch. The dragon extended a wing, let the flames flicker, and roared. A cheer went up in the forge. They weren't building bombs, they were rebuilding hope. Elsewhere, Caelthra reviewed a star map, littered with red marks, loyalist strongholds, systems enslaved by the crown, and now black zones. Places communication simply stopped. "They're not just retreating," she whispered. "They're being devoured." Her tail twitched. We've won a war and woke a nightmare. That night the dragons flew, dozens of them, no longer shackled in the caves of noble tyrants, but free and bonded willingly to riders of many species. Sam stood in the canyon below, looking skyward. "I thought I came here to survive," he said. Kelthra stood beside him. "You came to fix broken things. You just didn't know how big that would be." He half smiled. "There's still 1,000 things wrong." "Good," she said. "We've got time." But even as she spoke, a shadow crawled across the stars, not cast by fleet or station, but something alive, something vast. The next morning, a transmission came in, encrypted, ancient code, not of the crown. Scorch's head snapped up before it even fully played. "It speaks old flame," he growled. "The tongue of the first wars." Sam narrowed his eyes. The voice in the transmission was female, calm, almost sympathetic. "To the one who rekindled the flame, we have been watching. You lit a signal we buried for eons. What sleeps beneath the desert was never just royal blood, but the lock on a door, and you, mechanic, have turned the key." Silence. Then Scorch growled, "You woke the first extinction." Sam stood frozen. "We were trying to rebuild." "Then build fast," Kelthra said, her scales paling, "because the past isn't done with us." Sam looked down at his hands, the ones that once fixed engines, the ones that pulled dragons from fire. And now, they held the future, burning and fragile. He turned to Kelthra. "Let's get to work." Behind them, the forge flared. Above them, wings beat the sky. And in the cold dark beyond the rim, something began to answer.